Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Welcome to the Patriot Come Lately show. This is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, the voice of the Second American Revolution. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever or wherever you are listening. As someone who came to America to escape from the socialist nightmare, I am using this show to shake America awake. Join me in the next hour for constitutional conservative news and views, as well as the occasional guest. We have to rebuild that shining city on the hill by taking this great country back to the principles set forth by the founders.
And good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Whenever, wherever you're listening to the show, this is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, and proud to be so. Welcoming you to episode 203 of Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio. Yes, 203, folks. The numbers keep growing. This show is, as before, coming to you from snowy Canada. Although I think it's not just winter up here. It sounds like the South is going to be hit pretty hard last night, tonight, and tomorrow. So all the best to the folks down there. I think it's very sad for you. Of course, it's just round about freezing down there. Up here, we're actually down to 4 or 5 degrees Fahrenheit, so you could say pretty cold. Luckily, very little wind, so the wind chill's not too bad. But if the wind were to pick up, we get quite a bad wind chill. And of course, my sympathies to Atlanta specifically, because of course that part of the world is going to will be my new home. Another couple of shows, and then I will officially have moved back up to Georgia. I'll let you all know when that happens. But the month of February is basically our last month in Florida as Florida residents, and we'll be seeing you. The show comes from everywhere, obviously, but we will be moving the PCL mobile studio right at the very end of February. The end of February falls on a weekend, so we will be driving up, and hopefully all the bad weather will be over by then. Okay, theme of tonight's show is the GOP caves, and we know about the debt ceiling vote that took place this evening. I want to talk a little bit about that. But before that, I picked out some quotes for tonight's show. So here we go. 2 quotes, actually. One of them is my own. Another day, another delay. I think that has a nice catch to it, doesn't it? Yes, Obamacare has had another provision delayed this time I think for 3 years, so it falls after the 2016 election. That's that Obama can make it easier for both Hillary and, of course, the congressmen and the senators that are going to be up for re-election in 2016, make it easier for them so that they don't get hit by Obamacare. Well, folks, pulling the wool over our eyes in that way doesn't work. We all know what's coming. We've seen it with the 6 million that have been thrown off their policies, and we know it's going to be more, so it doesn't work. But let's just look at what's happening here. Remember a while back when we had the whole budget debate, and basically the conservative Tea Party wing of the GOP was derided primarily by the left, but also by some of their own people for trying to repeal the law or even delay the law. And what did the left say? The law is the law. We've got to stick to the law. You can't repeal it. You can't delay it. The law is the law. And now all of a sudden the law is flexible. Isn't it interesting how they can turn on a dime like that? You know, just an example of regressive hypocrisy. And it's not just me saying that. What about Charles Krauthammer, the well-known commentator? He says it's unbelievably hypocritical. Remember when Republicans were trying to change the law legally and constitutionally in Congress, they were accused of being terrorists. They were taking the country hostage when all they were saying was, let's amend the law as written. And now, instead of amending Obamacare via legal means, King Barry has altered it by fiat, which is completely lawless. Why don't people see this? I mean, I agree totally with Charles Krauthammer. It is totally lawless. Why don't they do anything about it? Take it to the Supreme Court. Impeach King Barry. Whatever we need to do, but take it to the Supreme Court. I mean, that is totally lawless. And this whole BS about who has standing. Congress has standing because he's overruling the will of Congress. Congress produced that law, gave it to him to sign and to execute, and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's going to the Supreme Court and saying, okay, all these executive orders are illegal. Have them struck down. Make these provisions be implemented so people can really see how bad this Obama curse really is. Now, according to Krauthammer, we now have 27 delays in total. And the only reason he's doing it is to help Democrats in the coming election. The previous delay was to delay it past 2014 so we can get a good result for the Democrats, or at least not such a bad result for the Democrats in the 2014 election. And now this latest delay things another 3 years so that it goes on past 2016. It is so transparent how corrupt this dictator, this great dictator is. He and his cronies, and they should all be taken and shipped off to Guantanamo Bay or shipped off to Cuba and just dump them there, because we don't want them here in America. We want a constitutionally run country where the law is the law, which is their cry, but we want that. We want the law to be applied, and we want it to be applied to everybody the same, no waivers, no exceptions on anything. And by the way, I'm not going to cover it in this show, but that applies to immigration as well. So it's about time we started applying the immigration laws that exist. We don't need a new comprehensive immigration reform bill. Let's start by applying the law with the existing laws. And once we've done that, then we can talk about making the necessary amendments to those laws to accommodate the situation that we have today. But first, apply the law. First, close the borders. Then we'll talk about accommodation for the people that are here and want to stay here after the law is starting to be applied. Because you watch, that stream of people north over the Rio Grande will very quickly turn to a stream south if we start applying the law. And not to them necessarily, but to the employers, for example, is a good way to do it. Anyway, Krauthammer says, these delays are only meant to help the Democrats because it makes no sense for small businesses. They've been preparing 4 years for the law, and now it's being changed under their feet, which is absolutely no good for them. So, okay, folks, let's continue on here. Yes, Krauthammer says, if it ever reaches the Supreme Court, I think this kind of thing will be struck down and heavily criticized. Well, will it ever reach the Supreme Court? Will the GOP have the cojones to do that? The GOP establishment, the Washington, D.C. namby-pambies that call themselves the GOP leadership. Somehow I don't think so. So here's my quote number 2. And here's one for all you Tea Partiers out there, 912ers, conservatives, libertarians, constitutionalists, but let's face it, all of those that want to fight against all this corruption, all these awful things going on that Washington is foisting upon the American people and not listening to us. Quote number 2, resistance is what we must have. Because if we fight, we might lose. But if we don't fight, we have already lost. And the biggest example of that is today's GOP caving on the debt ceiling limit. Boehner had said he wanted to tie something to raising the debt ceiling limit, reduce spending, XL pipeline, restoring veteran benefits, something. And now they caved and they got absolutely nothing. They gave everything. They bowed down to the great dictator and his cronies and licked his ass. And I hope that they get sick from that, because that's all they deserve. This GOP establishment has to go. They're a bunch of wimps, namby-pambies. They're not prepared to stand up for us. And I'm going to show some people who are prepared to stand up. And we know the obvious ones, Mike Lee, Senator Cruz, Rand Paul, all these great people are prepared to stand up, but the establishment, the GOP establishment, they're the first ones we need to get rid of. And you know who we need to get rid of from the Congress when it comes round in 2014? Here's a list of names. Get out your pencils, folks. Write down these names. If they're in your district, vote against them. Even if you have to vote for a lefty, vote against them. We need to get these people out. And if you are not in their district, send money to their opponent, especially their Republican opponents in the primaries. Find out who the conservative, constitutionalist, Tea Party representative or candidate is in the primary, and send them money, tons of it, please, folks. I know it's difficult, times are tight, but we need to get these out. So like I said, take out your pencil, and here are the names that you need to note down. Top of the list, John Boehner, right, Republican from Ohio. The Majority Leader, Eric Cantor, Republican from Virginia. Kevin McCarthy from California. He's the Majority Whip. Chief Deputy Whip, Pete Roskam from Illinois. Ken Colvert from California. Dave Camp from Michigan. Michael Grimm from New York. Richard Hanna from New York. Doc Hastings from Washington. Darrell Issa from California. Devin Nunes from California. Hal Rogers from Kentucky. Dave Reichert from Washington. Chris Collins from New York, Howard Coble from North Carolina, Charlie Dent from Pennsylvania, Mike Fitzpatrick from Pennsylvania, Pete King from New York. Yeah, there's a rhino if I ever saw one. Frank Lobiondo from New Jersey, Buck McKeon from California, Patrick Meehan from Pennsylvania, Gary Miller from California, Ed Royce from California, John Runyon from New Jersey. Isn't it funny that all the blue states have all these wishy-washy Republicans, all these rhinos that we need to get rid of? Very strange there. So, folks, like I said, and I got a few more. John Shimkus from Illinois, Chris Smith from New Jersey, David Velado from California, and Frank Wolf from Virginia. So, New York, California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, those are the states that have a lot of Republicans that walked across the aisle with John Boehner and bowed down to the great dictator. Like I said, licked his boots. Folks, they need to go. They really need to go. And frequent listeners will know that's my new little jingle to indicate a change of topic. Sort of a change of topic, because related to what happened today, we have a conservative group calling for Boehner's head. The Senate Conservative Fund said that it is time for House Speaker John Boehner to go, and they are going to keep track of the GOP lawmakers that support their effort to oust him from the leadership post. And they will funnel money to those GOP lawmakers that do help get rid of John Boehner. The group, which is targeting several incumbent rhinos in primary races this year, said that Boehner had sold out small government principles on too many occasions, and the last straw came this week when they signaled they were going to support a bill to increase the nation's borrowing limit without attaching any strings to reducing spending. That is just, I can't believe they did that. Do they really think we are that stupid? Yes, they probably do. So Matt Hoskins, who's the group's executive director, this is the Senate Conservatives Fund, said there is only one solution. John Boehner must be replaced as Speaker of the House. And I say, hear, hear, folks. We definitely need to do that. And let's see, what else did he say? Oh, yes. Conservatives helped Republicans win a majority in the House of Representatives. Remember what we did in 2010? Yes, we had this great sweeping victory, the biggest Republican victory in a long time. And what happened? We were totally ignored. They did nothing for us. Get rid of the establishment. Get rid of these rhinos. We have to vote in more conservatives. Take over. Let's have anybody who is right of center, and when I say center, not center aisle, but center Republican. Those are the people we have to vote for. And actually, it's not about left or right or center, and what it's actually about, who are the ones who support the Tea Party principles? Smaller government, less taxes, follow the Constitution. Those are the ones that we want. Balanced budget. Those are the people that we should be supporting. Those are the people that we should send back to Washington. Let's clean up that way. Anyway, Matt Hoskins says John Boehner has chosen to ignore us, and he's helping President Obama enact his liberal agenda. And therefore Republicans should block him from the position at the beginning of the next Congress. And we will do that. And with any luck, we might even get him voted out of his district in Ohio. Well, that's maybe a little bit wishful thinking, but you never know. Anything is possible if you set your mind to it. Remember what Walt Disney said? He said, he did definitely say, if you can dream it, you can do it. So let's dream it, folks, because we're going to do it. And, well, let's see how we're doing for time. Okay, I've got a couple of minutes before the first break. And so what I'd like to do now is talk about some good news, because we do have good news. So up comes the good news. And if you're looking for people that we need to support, that will stand up for us, that will stand up against the stupid left-wing people, here's one. Now, frequent listeners will maybe remember last summer I was broadcasting from Maine. Well, there's a new governor in Maine. He's called Paul LePage. Remember that name. He makes New Jersey's Chris Christie look timid. He's not afraid to say what he thinks, and he stands up for his principles. Judging by the comments, every time he opens his mouth, his popularity goes up. And everybody says, you can't say that, you can't do that, and yet his popularity goes up. So here's some examples. At his inauguration, he shook his fist towards the media box and said, "You're on notice. I've inherited a financially troubled state to run. Observe, cover what we do, but don't whine if I don't waste time responding to your every whim just for your amusement." In other words, lamestream media, get your act together. During his campaign for governor, he was talking to commercial fishermen in Maine, obviously a very important industry there, who are struggling because of federal fishery rules. That's right. Somebody's earning a living, making a profit, so the federal government's going to come in and find ways to tax it, to regulate it, whatever. They complained that King Barry had brought his family to Bar Harbor and Acadia National Park for a long Labor Day weekend, and found time to meet with union leaders while he was up there. But he wouldn't talk to the fishermen. No, well, what do you expect from the a-hole? He's not going to meet with people who earn an honest living and make a profit. He's going to listen. He's going to talk to the people who pay him lots of money, who live off the fruit of the workers underneath them. And believe me, you look at the union leaders, you see what their payrolls are. You see how high their salaries and all the benefits they get. And I've mentioned this on the show before. I've spoken to people who work at Disney in the luxurious hotels there, and every so often the union leadership has you can't call them conventions, has meetings there, and you wouldn't believe what comes through on those hotel bills in terms of expensive meals. They raid the minibar, which is, is a very expensive hobby, massages, hairdressing, you name it. Spa treatments, and it's all on the bill, and it all goes to the union, so that those hard workers who are forced by these thugs that call themselves union leaders, who are forced to pay these dues, that number one goes to pay their inflated salaries and all the benefits that they get, and number two to pay for contributions to these corrupt politicians in D.C. who then dance to their pipes, like King Barry, who will speak to the union leaders, right? These corruptocrats, and not to the fishermen who are earning an honest living. That tells you how bad this ruling class, these elitists in that part of the world are. Anyway, so LePage, they complained about the fact that King Barry had met with union leaders and wouldn't talk to the fishermen, and LePage turned round and he said, "I'd tell him to go to hell and get out of my state." Oh, I would love to have been there. I wish he would have done that on mic. I would love to hear that. Now, the lamestream media crucified LePage, but he jumped 6 points in the pre-election poll. Then, on Martin Luther King, there was a political sandbagging. The NAACP tried to trap him, but it brought him national exposure. The NAACP specifically asked LePage to spend MLK Day visiting black inmates at the Maine State Prison. He told them if he went to the prison on MLK Day, he would meet with all inmates regardless of race, judge them on the content of their character, not on the color of their skin. And who said that? Yes, Martin Luther King. So very good of Paul LePage to say that. The NAACP then said, "No, we're not going to support that," and they put out a press release claiming falsely that he had refused to participate in any MLK events. Now, remember what he said. He said, "Yes, I'll go there, but I'm not going to meet only with black people." LePage read that the first time in the newspaper the day after, when he was being driven to an event, and he went ballistic because none of the reporters who reported that had called him for comment before running the NAACP press release. He arrived at the event and said in front of a TV camera, "If they want to play the race card on me, they can kiss my ass." And he reminded them that he has an adopted black son from Jamaica, and he had attended the local MLK breakfast every year that he was mayor of Waterville, which is where he started. And he actually started his morning there this year on MLK Day. He stated there's a right way and a wrong way to meet with the governor, and he put all special interests on notice that press releases, media leaks, and all demonstrations would prove to be the wrong way. He said any other group which acted like the NAACP could expect to be at the bottom of the governor's priority list. He then did the following, and to judging from local talk radio show callers, his popularity increased even more. The state employees complained because he waited until 3 p.m. before closing state offices and facilities and sending non-emergency personnel home during the last blizzard. The prior governor would often close offices for the day with just a forecast before the first flakes. Every time the state closes for snow, it costs the taxpayers about $1 million in wages for no work being done. LePage was CEO of the Marden's chain of discount family bargain retail stores before he became governor, so he noted that state employees getting off work early could still find lots of retail stores open to shop. So he put the state employees on notice by announcing, if Marden's is open, Maine is open. He told state employees, we live in Maine in the winter, for heaven's sakes, and we should know how to drive in it. Otherwise, apply for a state job in Florida. And the writer of that article says, Governor LePage symbolizes what America needs today, and I agree 100% with that. Refreshing politicians who aren't self-serving and who exhibit common sense. Okay, folks, time for a break. I'll be right back after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have 1 car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And in case you don't know to which program you're listening, here is a little reminder.
Patriot Come Lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
So, thank you for sticking with me through that break. Time to move on to the next topic. And talking about Ted Cruz he has announced, and he's put out a statement saying that he intends to object to any effort to raise the debt ceiling with a simple majority vote in the Senate. Now, difficult to see whether or not that will pass, but he says if you ask anybody outside of Washington whether we should keep increasing the debt ceiling without fixing the underlying problem of out-of-control spending, the answer is, of course, not. This answer cuts across party lines and ideology. Outside the Beltway, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and Libertarians all agree that living within your means is basic common sense, and yet Washington is not listening to the American people. He continues on, historically, the debt ceiling has proven the most effective leverage for reining in spending. 28 times Congress has attached meaningful conditions to debt ceiling increases. We should do so again to address the real problem. I intend to object to any effort to raise the debt ceiling on a 50-vote threshold. I will insist instead on a 60-vote threshold, and if Republicans stand together, we can demand meaningful spending restraint to help pull our nation back from the fiscal and economic cliff. Now, remember, spending bills are supposed to originate in the House, but with Wimp Boehner in the House there, it's not going to help. So Cruz is going to try. He's going to get crucified for it. He's probably not going to be as successful. At least this guy tries, though. Let's support him for that. Okay. Now, last week we talked about some ideas of some very simple things you could do to fight this regressive scourge that is sweeping the nation. Here's something that's happening in Arizona, and there are other states doing this as well. They're advancing their 10th Amendment rights by trying to pass bills that include nullification of federal gun laws and stop the state enforcement of the federal gun laws. So in Arizona, a state senator called Kelly Ward, along with some other co-sponsors, has introduced a bill called the Second Amendment Preservation Act. According to the bill, all federal regulations which violate the Second Amendment, which is basically any federal gun law, would be recognized as invalid and void in this state. The legislation also prohibits the state from enforcing any federal act, law, order, rule, or regulation. Glad they put that in there so that King Barry's rule by fiat will be included, that relates to a personal firearm accessory, or ammunition within the limits of this state. So basically they're saying the federal government can make these laws, but the state will not support them, will not provide law enforcement, money, or anything to enforce it. Senator Ward said, "We've sat back and allowed the federal government to trample the Constitution long enough. We're going to pass this bill and stop the state of Arizona from helping the feds violate your rights." And according to the 10th Amendment Center, this can be quite successful. The legislation rests on a well-established legal principle known as the anti-commandeering doctrine. Simply put, the federal government cannot force or coerce states into implementing or enforcing federal acts or regulations, constitutional or not. And that doctrine rests on 4 Supreme Court cases dating back to 1842. Remember, regressives, the law is the law, so follow the law. And the cornerstone quote from that: the federal government may neither issue directives requiring the states to address particular problems, nor command the states' officers or those of their political subdivisions to administer or enforce a federal regulatory program. Such commands are fundamentally incompatible with our constitutional system of dual sovereignty. So the federal government depends on state cooperation for almost everything it does, and especially Second Amendment type things. So it will make it very difficult for the feds to violate your right to keep and bear arms in Arizona if they pass that. Now, there are other states doing that, but Guns and Ammo magazine ranked Arizona number 1 for gun rights, so it's most likely to pass there. But who knows? And it's very simple for Arizona, they're saying, because you can't say you support the Second Amendment and then oppose this bill. Now, Representative Dan Eagle of Florida has introduced similar legislation in the Sunshine State. So in that respect, I'm sorry to be leaving the Sunshine State. And that's great news for Florida. Now, both of these bills, both Florida and Arizona, does not allow for criminalizing federal agents that might attempt to enforce the law in the state. I know one state tried to, I think, do that with Obamacare, and they said anybody coming into the state trying to enforce it will be criminalized. They're not doing that. They're just saying we will not support. So removal of state resources to aid the feds is a step in the right direction. This is something supported by that great favorite of us constitutionalists, Judge Andrew Napolitano. He was talking, though, about some other nullification, which is nullification of legislation of Obamacare in South Carolina. And he said, if the president wants Obamacare in South Carolina, the feds will have to pay for it and the feds will have to establish it. If enough states do this, it will gut it. So the same thing for federal gun laws. If enough states say we're not going to support it, it will gut the law. It'll make it impossible to really enforce. Tennessee, West Virginia, Texas, Alabama, Florida, and Missouri, as well as Arizona, are all looking to nullify federal gun laws. So you never know. Now, what can you do about this? Well, what you can do is contact your state senator, contact your state representative. If any of them give you a no or undecided answer, call them back in 2-3 days, ask them again. And, very important, write letters to the editors of your local newspapers. Talk about the law, say how important it is, and see if you can get it published. Not always easy, but try and do that. Okay, folks, time for the next break. So if you'll stick with me, we will be back right after these messages.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patriotcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. We're a little past the second half of the show. I'm running a little late on the commercials this week. Apologies for those of you that want them at a specific time, but anyway, I'm not on terrestrial radio yet, so it's not so important, but I do want to get them in, and I appreciate those of you that use the 800 numbers to inquire about the products that are in those commercials, because the purveyors of those commercials very kindly send a small donation to the show every time you do so. So thanks for that. Okay, more good news, and for that, let's have even a better intermezzo. More good news is that Representative James Langford of Oklahoma has introduced a bill for the states to opt out of Obamacare with a health care compact. I don't want to go into all the details, but he says the healthcare compact is a way for states to protect their residents from the top-down, one-size-fits-all healthcare solutions that are being imposed from Washington, D.C., including Obamacare. The compact transfers healthcare decision-making authority and responsibility from the federal level to member states, which is where it should be. This is what the Republicans, especially the conservatives, have been saying all along. The left says, oh, you don't have an answer. You just say you want to repeal Obamacare, you don't have an answer. Of course we have an answer. It's just that your lackey mainstream media will never publish what that answer is and what good solutions we do have. Anyway, those member states are then free to implement their own healthcare systems without interference from federal bureaucrats, using federal healthcare funds already collected and spent in their state. In other words, we don't send the money to D.C., we just keep it where it belongs in the state. Now, 8 states have joined the healthcare compact: Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Indiana, Missouri, South Carolina, Texas, and Utah. You don't need a majority, and legislation has either passed the state legislature or is being considered in 12 additional states. So the momentum is there. Now, interstate compacts are governing tools that have been used on more than 200 occasions to establish agreements between and among states. Compacts are mentioned in Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, so they are constitutional instruments that provide authority and flexibility to the states for administering government programs without federal interference. But, and here comes the but, congressional consent is required for states to enter into a legally binding compact. And you think that this corrupt administration regime, and I'll call it a regime because it's both sides of the aisle here, do you think they're going to give away their power? No, we're going to have to take it from them, right? Think about Mark Levin's Article 5 convention. We have to take away the power from D.C., and I know we will. The healthcare compact, by the way, does not conflict with efforts by states' attorney generals, state legislators, or members of Congress to repeal or modify Obamacare. The representative says, I still strongly support a full repeal, but in the meanwhile, we can let interested states find a way to solve their state's healthcare problems by themselves. And he says, states that like their Obamacare can keep their Obamacare, but we don't want it. And it gives a state like Oklahoma the option to create a customized system that better meets the needs of Oklahoma families. So, healthcare compact, folk, look for it in your own state. Again, contact your state legislators about this. If they're not doing it, suggest it, talk to them, get out there. If we do these kinds of things, we can actually have a chance of saving our country. Now, coming up next. But before we do that, like I said, I'm a bit behind on commercials, so we're going to go to a commercial break. After that, talk about Dumb and Dumber, talk about liberal hypocrisy. I've got the one that tops it all. I thought I had it last week, but this really tops it all. So folks, stick with me, and then we're going to have a good laugh at the expense of those stupid regressives.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us.
Patriot Come Lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
So, as promised, folks, a laugh. Well, this next topic, there's a lot to laugh about, but there's also some sad sides to it because it shows what our country is coming to. But let's look at the fun stuff side of it. As you may know, in New York, there is a new, very draconian gun law. It's called the SAFE law. I'm not going to pronounce the word that spells because this law is anything but that, because it actually, again, encourages people who illegally have guns. They will be able to use them against people who legally cannot have guns or can only have guns with reduced capability. But anyway, that law was brought about because in New York they're obviously very regressive, and there's a lot of people involved with that. And one of the things that a Buffalo, New York community activist, community organizer, pretty stupid person when you hear what he did, but then again, isn't that par for the course for community organizers? Anyway, he's Dwayne Ferguson. He's very well known for locally pushing the highly restrictive 2013 Gun Control Act, or bill, in New York. And one of the things that this bill did was introduce the fact that if you carried a gun at a public elementary school, unless you were a police officer. But basically, anybody else, it was illegal to carry a gun at a public school. And if you did so, it was no longer a misdemeanor. It was actually a felony offense. So this was part of what he worked to have passed as a law. Well, last week, Thursday, about 4:15 p.m., there was a kerfuffle at the school at which he works because about 12 squad cars, a helicopter, a armored car, a SWAT team, and tons of officers swarmed the school because there'd been a pair of anonymous 9/11 tips about somebody carrying a gun in the school. And yes, you guessed it, the person carrying the gun was Mr. Dwayne Ferguson, the gun control advocate. Does it get any stupider that? I mean, can you really believe that he would do something that stupid? But apparently he did. So the school was placed in lockdown, and the students were searched, and any adults in the area were searched, and all of that good stuff. I mean, you just have to laugh about him. I mean, he is just so stupid. I just can't imagine how he could even be that stupid. Now, he claims that he accidentally forgot about having the gun on his person. Yeah, right. Well, if he's such a gun control fanatic, why does he even have a gun? Would be the other thing. And apparently he does actually have a license to carry, which is pretty difficult to get in New York, maybe less so outside of New York City, but even so, still not easy in that part of the world. So he used to have a gun license. Now he's going to be a felon. Well, let's not hold our breath, because we know the left looks after their own. So it's very likely that this guy, I'm sure he will get off with a warning or something. But the law is the law, folks. That's what the left keeps telling us. So he ought to be put away for a good number of years in prison at, a felony. And then he also loses his right to carry a gun. But anyway, that's something else. But what's also sad about this whole thing is the fact that the police swarmed this school with so many people. And you think about it, this is, it is very sad because it's, let's face it, it's militarized police again. And they're swarming, 12 squad cars, a brigade of officers, a SWAT team, a helicopter, an armored vehicle, just for one guy carrying a handgun. I mean, that just, if that's not overreaction, I don't know what is. And, just absolutely crazy. So, and I'm just thinking, guy probably has a concealed carry license. So because they said they had more than one 9/11 call. Was it that obvious that he was carrying? In which case it wasn't concealed carry. So something funny going on with this whole thing. Who knows? Maybe it was a prank, but because I can't imagine anybody would be that stupid. But maybe not. And the left. Liberalism is a disease, as Michael Savage used to say, and still does. And liberalism is a disease of the mind, and is almost as bad as Alzheimer's, because it makes you totally forget what you're doing and doing the right thing and being honest, and just totally makes you corrupt. So anyway, folks, we're getting to the end of the show here. I want to thank you for joining me again this week. Hope you can join me next week. Next week I'm going to talk about some things that went on in Europe and how the political elites there are bossing the countries around, and I'll explain how that applies to what's happening here, because it's just like Washington doing to our states, Brussels is doing to their states. Now, of course, they haven't had this centralized government as long as we have, but it is a lot more powerful because they've given it a lot more powerful. So, folks, it's almost time. I hope you can join me. Remember, keep those emails coming. I'd like to hear from my listeners. Got comments, questions about the show, and I hope in the near future to be able to get the technical capability to have guests again. I'm still working on that, but hopefully we'll get that shortly. Okay, folks, I see the music is arriving, so thanks a lot, and TTFN, see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Patriot Come Lately Show. Please take what you have learned and share it with friends and family. Better still, tell them about the show so they can listen too. Remember to support the advertisers on the show. It helps keep this show on the air, and I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to joining you on the next show. Until then, keep spreading our message. Goodbye, and God bless America.
Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.